Bon dia.
Bon dia.
Hello everybody. Welcome to another episode. This is one where we weren't necessarily expecting to do it anytime soon. But you know, at the very beginning, I think on the very first initial podcast, we said that we were going to be completely open, honest, truthful, give you, all the highs and lows. And today is going to be one of those lows. So this is kind of a talking out therapy session in a way.
It totally is.
But it brings with it the realizations of moving away from friends and family. And when we say family, we mean all of family. It's not just humans, it's our fur babies, it's our cats, it's our whatever that you've had to leave behind. So that's really what we're going to chat about this morning.
Well, and I think it's really important. So I was actually on our TikTok account the other day. Follow us there if you have not. And someone said, just make sure you talk about all of it, the good and the bad, right? And that's always been our goal. We don't want to sugarcoat things. And it's funny that you call this talk therapy because it probably is going to become that. So I guess you guys get to be part of our little therapy session today.
No charge.
But I think it's really important that when we have tough times that we talk about those things too, so that people who are following us, people who are interested in this experience overall for yourself, that it's not through rose-colored glasses either.
I mean, when we moved, we knew that we were going to have to take on some tough decisions, or not even decisions, just things that happened
Sacrifices.
Way out of our control. And to some degree, it wouldn't have changed anything, even if we were still living back in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah.
But the difference is, X thousands of miles away. It kind of feels like a big difference. So, should we get into it, as they say?
So
Therapy 101.
Yeah. This week was just a hard week for me. I'll be honest. I had a friend who passed away late last week at 48 of cancer. And although we knew that was coming, it was a very stark reality to hear from across an ocean. I feel like one of the things that I want to talk about a little bit today is like all the feelings that we're feeling when things like this happen and being so far away and like the ramifications of those things. But anyway, I lost a friend, and then within a couple of days, my parents' dog, who has been part of our family for 13 years, also passed away. And it felt like a lot of loss this week.
Yeah.
And I could say loss from afar, but it didn't feel like it was very far away. It felt like it hit very, very, very hard. So it was just a tough week. And this is why we're doing this podcast today, not planned.
Yeah, this is unscripted.
We're very unscripted. I mean, we usually don't script anything, but we at least plan things and like what we might talk about.
What's the outline going to be? What are we going to talk about?
But today it's kind of off the cuff because
it deserves to be. You can't really. I don't think you can script a story of, love and loss.
No, and I don't. The important thing to me is to make sure that we're talking about real life stuff, and I don't think it gets
more real
life than death.
Yeah.
And when you're away, how that feels, and
I mean, this is something that we spoke about at the very beginning, with ourselves as to a couple of things. Number one, why are we doing this experience? Why are we having this experience? It's because of reasons like...
Because you don't know you have to
you don't know when it's going to be.
Yeah.
So if you live in the moment, then you can at least be grateful of those moments. And I think that's really important for us. Different for everybody, but important for us. But it's, I don't know, from the outset, it was always going to be, there is going to be a loss over an ocean.
Mm.
And, you know, if I take it back a couple of years ago to when my dad passed, he was in England, I was in the States. And even, you know, at the very outset, I'd said it wouldn't have made much of a difference if we were in North Carolina at the time for Lou and Bella. But, you know, losing Dad at that time, even if I was living in England, I still wouldn't have made it in time. So you can still, I don't know, I think just being grateful for family's support of why you're doing what you're doing, that matters an awful lot as well.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so
When you're,
sorry,
when
I
you're,
was talking over you a little bit.
No,
So.
that's okay. When your dad died, this helps us as a couple 100%, because now that we have moved from the US to Portugal, I can understand what Mark went through moving from the UK to the US before we met. Even more now, because I've experienced this move for us, even though we're doing it together.
Right.
So I know that we're going to have a lot of times where we're going to get each other even more than we already do, which is hard to believe. But I also, like, when you think about when you lost your dad and you were away and you were across an ocean, you were in Charlotte, what were those emotions that you felt? What were they? Can you name them? And I know we have a problem with this. So I probably shouldn't have even asked you this question, but we're going to test you today, baby.
Oh,
Name the emotions.
I don't know if these are in no particular order, but, you know, kind of. So obviously sadness, great sadness.
Yes.
But also guilt.
Yes.
To a degree. And I know that even before I moved, you know, I had a year and a half, 2 years to plan to get the visa to go from the UK to the States. And throughout those 2 years, Dad was declining. But at the beginning, he was well aware of what I was doing, and he was like, you go for it, son. You just crack on and go and live. You know, don't worry about your mum and I. We'll be fine. And it's true, they were. And mum continues to be. But I think that sadness and guilt. But as I said, you know, partway at the start, I can feel the guilt in the States, or I could have felt the guilt in the UK, because I still wouldn't have had time, given what happened, to get there in time. So, you know, I can feel guilt about being an ocean away, and I probably will always. But at the same time, I think you've just got to go with the whole attitude of what brought you from, or what took you from one place to another, and that's adventure, it's experiences, it's living in the moment.
Yeah. Well, you made me tear up when you said guilt, because I think that's probably what I have been feeling the most.
Yeah.
Okay, I told myself I wasn't going to cry, but if anybody knows me, you know better than that. Like, that would be...
I didn't bring any tissues.
It would be weird if I didn't cry. But I will say this. I felt shock and sadness and then immediate guilt.
Yeah.
And that is self-imposed.
But it's normal.
It's normal. It is self-imposed, though. We are lucky that we have family that supports what we're doing and supports our decisions. And though they might want us at home during these times of loss, they are not the ones imposing the guilt, at least for us. And I know that's not the same for everybody's situation. But yeah, I felt immense guilt for not being able to go to the funeral, right? Not being able to hug my parents when their best buddy died. You know, it's a really, really hard thing. And I know technology is amazing and it does help us so much. I'm so thankful for it. I talk to my friends a lot. I talk to them on video. I talk to them through the technology, and I talk to my family that way, and we see each other on camera. It's amazing. And I don't know if 20 years ago I would have been as willing to do something like this if it weren't for all of those like technology options.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like enough. It felt like to me like even when I was able to talk to my parents about their loss of Bella, our family dog, like it felt very lonely, ironically, right? Like, and I'm sitting here with the best man in the world, and I still felt disconnected from them, and honestly guilty for not being able to support them the way that I'm supposed to. And I think that just comes from me. That's again
That's your character. That's
it's
one of your
what I
traits.
want. It's what I want. I have the best parents in the world, and I always want to be a good daughter to them.
And you are.
Sorry.
You are. Just because we're an ocean over doesn't make you any less by any stretch.
It's just different.
I think honestly, if anything, it makes you, you say disconnected, I think it makes you more connected. Not necessarily when things like this happen, but I think just because one is an ocean away, you know.
You have to make effort.
You've got to make effort, and if you make effort, then you find out things that you might not have found out if we were, you know, in Charlotte. Or, you know, I have a weekly Zoom meeting every Sunday, 7:00 p.m., where most Sundays this is. I'll quote that because sometimes I fail. But you know, with my mum, my Auntie Jean, again, all of our family, like extended
They're
family,
called cousins.
Thank you, just family
I
trees.
do not understand family trees.
I know I have a brother, but family trees beyond that get a little bit confusing for me. Big words and all. But you know, if you make those efforts, they are still a way of keeping connected, even if you feel in that moment disconnected.
Yeah.
Because you know that you've got something to look forward to, that you're going to have this conversation. You're going to find out that one of your cousins went for an audition at Britain's Got Talent. And it's just like, where the heck did that come from? You know, from the person that you might least have all expected it. You know, so I think that's when being apart can help bring you closer, because you're asking more questions than in that short period of time than expecting to happen over a month or a few months of just catching up every now and then.
Yeah, when you're able to see each other in person regularly, it's a natural thing that you kind of know what's going on.
Right.
And when you are away, like we are, I guess one of the learnings is that it does take more effort. It's just like working on any friendship or relationship that you want to keep. You have to make different efforts when you have moved abroad to feel connected to family and friends, and you will do that if you care enough. Those are just things that that is just life. But yeah, it's been I don't know. I feel like it has been a roller coaster this week, and I'll be honest, my motivation, I have felt super tired for the past couple days. Like, I know that it is literally just the weight of all of this emotionally on me. Mm-hmm. And it's hard. That's what it comes down to. Yeah. Is that this is the hard part, and I would venture to say this is the hardest part of doing a move like this, adventuring like this. All of those things come at a price, and I also believe that you decide if the price is worth it, right? Like, and I will go on record to say I do think it is still worth it. It feels harder to say that in times of loss.
Of course. Because
you're in it and you're just missing your comforts of your family and friends and all of those things. But, you know, when it comes down to it, the irony is that when we have loss, for instance, my friend, 48, that is shocking to me and it also sobers me. It makes me ironically rooted in exactly why we're doing what we're doing right now. I'm 45. He is 53.
Oh, yeah. Calm down. Jeez.
We have chosen this life, for now at least, because we don't want to assume that we have tomorrow.
Right.
Or we assume that we have 10 more years to travel. Or we assume that when we are retired that we can do all the things that we want to do. So that's the irony of it, is that you feel the shock, you feel the loss, you feel the guilt, you feel the loneliness, you feel disconnected. And then after some time you are reminded that that's exactly why we have done what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just lucky that we have family and friends who support this, right? Yeah. Despite not being there, despite missing out on our funeral, despite not being able to hug my mom and dad, when they lost their fur baby. Like, that stuff doesn't matter to them. They love us and support us anyway. And so I think from our perspective and trying to therapize all this.
Therapize? Is that even a word?
I think so. We're going to look it up.
It is now.
It feels like it's your own shit you have to work through.
Yeah.
And I didn't even really notice that until right now when I said it. I mean, honestly, this is why I was hoping that this off-the-cuff podcast would help us both with this situation, because this is not the last time. No. And that's the other thing. I felt fear. I felt fear because I thought, this is just the first time we're going to go through this.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't know that. I've always felt a worry for Mum. Having lost Dad, being married for a gazillion years. But she's strong.
Yeah.
Even though she's, has her own struggles in battles with her health. And that is a big fear that I think it's another reason why I stay connected as often as I can. And I keep telling myself every now and then, I have to make more of an effort. I have to be the one to give her a call every now and then, or every week, or every Sunday.
Couple days.
Yeah. I mean, we speak a lot through the week. And, she'll phone us at 10 o'clock at night and I'll think, oh crap, what's the problem? Nobody phones anybody at 10 o'clock unless it's bad news.
She does.
Apart from her, because she doesn't go to bed until 11:30. She's like, I was just having a cup of tea. I was like, for God's sake, mother, scare the life out of me. But you get to know those routines and they become less of a fear, of worry, of what's going to happen when I answer this call. But the idea, again, of being away when something happens is a very real and scary one. But I keep coming back to, you can feel loss and sadness and everything in that moment when somebody passes, but it shouldn't, if this is what you want, it shouldn't make you change how you live in those moments.
Also, when you think about it, I think our gut, our reactions go toward I could have been there. I could have hugged my mom and dad. But if we were living in Charlotte, would we have gotten in the car and immediately gone to the lake?
I can't answer that. I can't honestly. I mean, of course you want to sit there and go, well, yes, of course we would. But honestly, you just don't know.
You don't. And yes, would I likely see them in a quicker amount of time after they had such a loss? Yes.
Of course. That goes without saying.
But I think it's interesting that we kind of romanticize, if I was there, it's just like you and what you went through with your dad.
That's guilt.
That's guilt talking, and that's guilt. It's self-imposed in our situation, and
because again for Dad, when I was talking to Mum directly afterwards, she said, it wouldn't have mattered whether you were here or there. What happened. You could not have affected it. I couldn't get there, and I was 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't matter where you'd be living in the UK, you wouldn't have got there. So, you know, and I think, you know, particularly for Mum and your parents, they make it easier in a difficult
they give us so
argument
much
with
grace.
ourselves,
Yeah.
like in our heads, but they give us so much grace.
Yeah, they do. And I'm thankful.
Yeah, because, you know, to get a response of, well, yeah, I mean, you could have been here, and, you know, maybe you'd have seen him. Nothing of the sort. And very fortunate and lucky to have parents.
Yes.
Both of our parents are exactly the same when it comes to that.
Yes.
So.
Well, all of this to say, I think stuff like this is inevitable when you make a choice to move across an ocean or to move to a different country, to move abroad, whether you move to Portugal or somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right? It is the known sacrifice that you make as part of the adventure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. And you can know it on paper, but this is our first time really experiencing something so close to home since we've been gone. And I think it was worth kind of hashing out on here, because I think it's important that people experience things along with us in a way. You know, I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like it's really important that if we are influencing anybody in any way to make a decision, right, and we're not here to say, hey, move to Portugal, but if you connect with us on those things, that's lovely. But I will say that our efforts are to help people who decide they want this. And I think it's important that we are representing this experience authentically.
Yeah.
Very authentically. And
which is what we said from the
it
outset.
and it also makes me think about that idea that I keep having about like expat support somehow.
Yeah.
You know, like I know not every person who moves across an ocean is going to have the same emotions and reactions and things that they have to work through. But I am totally intrigued with that process, and because I'm working through it myself, and so I'm noticing like the things that I'm going through, and I just find that fascinating, and I think it would be great to have some sort of community that is just focused on that aspect of it.
Yeah.
You know, like once you're here, whoopee, what now?
Once you're
what
here,
are we going to do now? Like, and how am I navigating? There's plenty of people who move over here alone.
Well, I moved to the States alone.
And so it's like, I know these people are going through similar things, and maybe they don't have a support partner. You know what I mean? Like or family or whatever. I feel like there's a need for this, and it may exist. I don't know,
but you know, you see it in some of the, and anybody that's watching this or listening to this, and they're considering a move to Portugal or any other country for that matter, but specifically Portugal, because we can talk about that in a specific. Several of the expat pages, like Facebook pages, will have an occasional comment by somebody saying, I've been here for 3 months,
haven't made any friends.
Can somebody tell me where I might go and find some friends, or how to connect with people? I'm Dutch, or I'm English, or I'm American, or I'm whatever, you know, but I'm open to anybody and anything, and because that's the reality of moving to a country. You can't, if you're going to move, let's get a little bit off topic, but on topic of what you're talking about, but if you're going to move to try and stay in completely a boxed environment of what you've left, what was the point of leaving?
Yeah, you can't come here and change things.
You're not going to come here and go, well, I want coffee mate creamer, hazelnut flavour.
That was a dig.
Or you know, anything like that, because you're not going to find, well, we haven't, and if you do, please drop a link. But
it's true though, you don't go there, you don't go to a new place to change it. You hope that it changes you.
Right, because that's the whole point of growing.
Yeah.
Growing personally, emotionally, you know, all of those ending in Y's. Big words again. So, yeah, I just think the community is a huge thing
Yeah.
And it can often help with things like this as well, because it puts you in this, perhaps in a bar or in a cafe, talking to somebody and catching up. Yeah, I had a similar thing happen to me 3 months ago, or just going through exactly the same thing. You just don't know what is going on in people's lives unless you connect and talk and drop a comment, and it might resonate, it might not. But I think that the more you say, and I've learned this this week in fact, the more you say yes, I say yes now more than I say no. Because if I say yes and experience something and I don't like it, then all I've done is I've spent a bit of time doing something that ultimately I'm not going to do it again. But if I say yes and I like it, then there's a little bit of growth.
Yeah.
So, saying yes more than no is a huge one from a community aspect. And it sort of touches on what we're talking about here.
Yeah. I think we need to explore that. And I think that if you're listening and you are considering moving, or if you've already moved and you are like jumping up out of your seat going, yes, girl, I felt that too, then let's start to build a community together, connect with us. It's something I want to explore, because I think there's opportunity to talk and form support for people who are moving and haven't moved yet.
Yep.
So that they can prepare emotionally for things, and then also after, the fact. But anyway, such a therapy session today, and I really appreciate.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
Yeah, we'll see if these podcasts are the ones that are interesting to people. But I appreciate the medium to be able to use this almost selfishly today, because I needed this. I needed to talk it out. I needed to talk it out in a way that's not just talking to my husband. It's talking about the whole situation and kind of like peeling the layers back about what's really going on in my head and my heart, and in situations like this, that again, it's not going to be the only time. It's not. And it's hard to realize that. It's scary to realize that, but it is also life, and it is also a situation where it leads those kinds of that acknowledgement and knowing that has led us here.
Yeah.
So I'm also thankful for it.
Yeah. I just think that we have a prime opportunity to share experiences, good, bad, ugly, truth, all of those things, and that's intentionally what we're going to be doing. Because we never back away from that, because that's life, that's real life. Yes, we could do podcasts on go to this neighbourhood, go to there, visit here, experience this food, and we will. I'm not saying we're not, because we will, because that's another reason we moved here, is to go and experience these things. But I think sometimes you just got to take the swing when it comes, to acknowledge something that you knew was going to happen.
Now it's happened.
Now it's happened. How do you deal with it?
Yeah.
And it's not a one and done thing. This is, it's a forever thing. Dealing with how you help one another, how we help one another through those difficult times, and that's what we do. And we're very fortunate and lucky to have that as a unit. So.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you, my Portugal junkies, for tuning in.
Yes.
And, connect us with people that have been talking about Portugal. We'd love for them to hear our podcast. We'd love for us to connect with you and them on Instagram. If you guys want to share with us things that are like your burning questions,
that's
we're going to
exactly
do
what I was just going to say.
Q&A podcasts, probably at least one a month. So continue asking those questions. Nothing's off the table.
Yeah.
We'll answer anything.
Yeah, exactly, because ultimately we can sit here and we can talk about the things that interest us, or we think that are going to interest others because they interest us, and we've moved. And,
we don't want to assume.
So so if you've got burning questions, or why don't we ever talk about that?
Bring it on.
Okay, we may not have a personal experience about it. Why don't we talk about schools? Why don't we talk about education? Fine, ask us. We'll do some digging, do some research, find out. We don't have children here, fur baby. who you may hear snoring in the background, who knows. So yeah, again, just it's an open invite to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And to that end, we are going to do some interviews with different people.
Oh yeah. In fact, I think I might interview my sisters in light of this conversation.
Oh, okay. That will be an evening one with wine.
So tune in.
For sure.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Very
We'll see you in the next episode. And yeah, ciao, ciao.
Ciao.